Hey, this is Mark Williams of Swine Life Barbecue. Today we're cooking a couple of pork steaks. Now we're cooking these for two reasons. We've been craving them for some time, and plus that's the only thing we can find at the grocery store right now. We're gonna get a couple of our favorite rubs on them and then get them out there on that Gateway drum smoker, let that fat start rendering and dripping on them coals, working all them great flavors. We're gonna finish with a little bit of Killer Hogs vinegar sauce to add a little bit of sweet and a little bit of tang. It don't get much simpler than that. Let's get started. We're gonna start by getting some rub on these pork steaks. Now the first thing we're gonna hit it with is a little bit of Killer Hogs TX Rub. I want this coarse pepper and coarse salt to really show some texture on these steaks, and then we're gonna finish it with the Mississippi grind. So we're gonna get about a medium layer of this TX Rub. As you can tell, it's got a good salt, good pepper, it's really coarse. And then we'll get it patted in. And while I'm on this side, I'm gonna go ahead and hit it with the Mississippi grind. This is gonna add our little bit of a sweet element, a little bit more savory. And of course, this is gonna add that color. And you can go a little bit heavier with this. You're not gonna overpower it. We'll get them flipped over and do the same thing to the backside. Hit it with the TX again, and then come back with the Mississippi grind. Now you can use any kind of rub you'd like. We're gonna start off with a salt, pepper, garlic like always, and then we're gonna finish with a sweet. Any rub combination you like will work perfect on these. Now that we got these pork steaks seasoned, we're gonna get out there and get that Gateway drum smoker fired up. That'll give them plenty of time to let that rub work on them, start sweating, and then we'll get them on the pit. We're gonna get this Gateway drum fired up with some Royal Oak lump charcoal. We'll get the basket filled, place the basket in the bottom, put a tumbleweed dead center, and get it lit. I'm gonna open the two intake vents all the way open, and we're gonna leave the lid off till we get a good bed of coals going. So as you can tell, we got a good little coal bed going. I'm gonna add 2 chunks of some persimmon wood from smokerwood.com. We'll put them off of the edge so they don't catch immediately. And then one of my favorite things on coals, got a couple of pieces of onions quartered up. We'll go ahead and add our top shelf in. Now I'm gonna put this on the highest setting, furthest away from the coals. We'll get the lid on. Now I'm gonna open the exhaust all the way up and then check the intake vents where they're almost closed. We're gonna shoot for that 300 mark today. We'll let it come on up to temp and stabilize, and we'll get these pork steaks on. This Gateway drum's coming up to 275. I know once I get the lid off, it's gonna go ahead and creep on up to 300, which is exactly where we want them. We're gonna get these pork steaks on. And I've never cooked on persimmon, and let me tell you, it smells great on these coals. We start letting this pork fat drip, it's really gonna start smelling good. I'm gonna turn these a little bit. Of course, them onions smell great on the fire as well. We'll get the lid on. We'll check on these pork steaks in about 30 minutes. We want that fat to start dripping on them coals, really get that fat good and caramelized. That way we'll finish with that glaze and it'll set the flavors off. So these pork steaks been on 30 minutes. Let's see what they're looking like. Of course, we got good smoke rolling. That fat starting to drip on the fire. Go ahead and get them flipped over and just kind of move them around a little bit. Oh yeah, we're starting to get a little color. Kind of got to work quick since you give this drum a little bit of air, she'll start flaring up. And then we'll get the lid back on. So we'll let these go about 15 or 20 more minutes, and then we're gonna start really checking color. I'm not too worried about internal temperature. I know they're done. We're really just cooking the color. But if I had to guess, I say we're gonna take these to about 165, 170. That way it renders that fat, gets good and tender, and then we'll put a glaze on them. So it's been another 15 minutes. Our total cook time has been about 45 minutes. I did go ahead and temp them just to see where we're at, and they're sitting at 165. The fat's starting to crisp up. We're gonna go ahead and get the backside of these glazed. So we'll let the smoke clear. Now I know that looks like a lot of smoke, but just so you know, this is not dirty smoke. This is that fat dripping on them coals. It's coming back up on the meat. That is flavor right there. So you can tell that fat's starting to sizzle. All I'm gonna do is just pour a little bit of this Killer Hogs vinegar sauce on each one. If a little bit runs off, that's all right. Say smoke follows beauty, doing a good job. We'll try to work a little quick, and then we'll get the lid right back on. We've let the top side of these pork steaks glaze for about 10 minutes. We're gonna go ahead and flip them, get the other side glazed. Again, we're gonna try to work pretty quick, let the smoke clear out, get them flipped over. Well, that side's got good color too. Get them brushed in, and then we'll get the lid back on, give them another 10 minutes. The top side's glazed for 10 minutes. It's time to get these pork steaks off. So we're gonna get them placed on this plate. So they got good color. That vinegar sauce glazed up nicely. So we'll get these in there and let them rest for a few minutes, and it's my favorite part, time to eat these babies. We brought these pork steaks in and let them rest for about 15 minutes on this cutting board. Just as a quick recap, we started with 4 pork steaks. We got them seasoned with 2 of our favorite rubs, and then got them out there on that Gateway drum smoker. Let that fat start rendering and dripping on them coals. Toward the end of the cook, we're glazing with some Killer Hogs vinegar. That's gonna add a tang, a good spice, and a great color to these pork steaks. As you can tell, that fat got good and crispy on them edges. I'm ready to dive in. I'll scoop these 3 out of the way, and then we're gonna go for this one right up front. I'm gonna get that cut right there. It's got a good fat cap on it. Of course, they feel tender. That knife cut right through them. Got a good crust. That's a pork chop. That's got an excellent flavor. That fat got a great crust on it. And of course the sugar's caramelized down on that fat. That's a good bite. The smoke flavor in these is great. That persimmon really went with this pork. That's the first time I ever cooked on persimmon, and I'm hooked on it now. I'll have to try a few more recipes with it. That's a wrap for us today at Swine Like. We appreciate y'all checking this video out. If y'all like pork chops, y'all gotta give pork steaks a try. It's all the great flavors of a pork chop, plus you get that crispy fat on the edge. If y'all got any questions, shoot us a message on Facebook or Instagram, and as always, like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see y'all next time.